On this episode of Leadership Hustle, we're going to talk about all the things leaders do that try to save their teams when they don't need saving. Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Leadership Hustle. I'm Andrea Fredrickson, and I'm joined with my co-host, Michelle.
Hey.
How you doing today?
Good.
It's beautiful out.
I know.
We went from warm to cold to now it's warm again, and it's like messing up my car. Today, quit saving your team, right? And that's like, well, let's talk a little bit more about that. Historically, maybe you've listened to one of our episodes where we talk a little bit about the 4 stages of team. Well, we're going to resurrect that a little bit, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into the behaviors that leaders do that they just get in their own way. Right? And so let's start with, what are the 4 stages of team development that we typically use in our conversations?
Yeah, well, I mean, forming, storming, norming, and then performing.
Right.
I mean, those 4 stages.
Yep.
And it's typically what happens is, no matter, we can be anywhere within those 4 stages, but when something changes, specifically a lot of times people.
When a person
when a person changes roles, responsibilities, new, left, whatever it is, we all go back to that forming, which I always like to, it's like we're on our best behavior during forming, right? We're just kind of getting to know each other and
people are really polite.
Yeah, polite, feeling things out. And well, I mean, hopefully we are, especially if we have a new person. That would be the goal. But then, I don't know, shit kind of settles in and people start that storming where, we disagree or someone is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or at least through their lens and so forth. And if we're not careful, we can hang out in storming. And so this always goes back to the purpose of, even before that new person comes in, talking about expectations of the team and how we work together and so forth.
Yeah.
But
the behaviors we typically see in storming. So once the politeness and the honeymoon is worn off, right? Hopefully that has happened. Not that it's worn out, but or that it's stopped. But the idea of, there's disagreements. That's not how we do it here, or that's not how the last person did it, or your timeline is different than my timeline. There's frustrations that are happening. There's maybe a little testing of who's got the authority or who's got the power, the influence
definitely testing of that.
What's going on.
For sure.
Who's on the in group, who's not on the in group.
Well, yes. Does the new person feel like they're a part of the in group, or do they feel like an outsider? Because we're going to lose that person really quick if they feel like an outsider.
Right.
For sure.
And so that storming, I just call it drama. That's really what it is, unless we can step in and do some things. And so as leaders, we have to begin making sure, if we haven't already set those standards of expectations, it's getting people to understand, instead of tattling, right? Instead of employee coming to Andrea and saying, so-and-so didn't do such and such, and Andrea saying, okay, I'll take care of it. It is teaching them how to have those conversations and teaching people how to create clarity in what's going on and making sure that we're having those conversations. But oftentimes I hear leaders say this all the time, okay, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
It's like, so then you stay the center of attention. You stay the center of what's going on.
Well, and I think you are damaging the trust, because now when you go have that conversation, the person you're having the conversation with is going to be more frustrated with the person who came to you,
right?
Because they didn't just come to them. I mean, most people are like, just tell me if you don't agree with this, or have that conversation. But no, now you went to my manager, and so now you're pushing them into threat, where their status is being threatened, whatever it may be. But they're going to start getting defensive.
So I'm going to skip step 3 for just a minute. So remember, it's forming, storming, norming, and performing. So I'm going to go to performing. And I like to use the phrase high performing, because high performing sets it a little bit higher, in that the goal here is for the leader not to be the center of the team.
Correct.
Okay? That you may have individual high performers. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the entire team knowing what to do, what direction to go, how to solve problems, how to have conversations with each other. The leader's responsibility is to make sure they know the direction they're supposed to go. When they step outside their space, their boundaries, their bumper cars, their space there, it's like, wait a second, let's get clarity, let's get back into where our lane is so that we know what we're supposed to do. But that doesn't mean that they're not having conversations with other departments. It's completely fine. The leader is not the center. The team is the center. That's the goal.
Yeah, that is the goal. That they have those difficult conversations. They call each other out.
The team members do.
Correct, yes. And they are, all working towards the same goal, which those goals are being, the clarity of those goals is being provided by the manager.
Yep.
But they as a group are figuring out how to make that work. And as they're doing that, they're having different opinions. They're having, I agree with this, but I see this differently. And they're listening to understand each other, right?
Yeah, if we're supposed to get this accomplished as a team, what are the steps? What are the milestones? Where are we with whatever resources we need? Who needs help on something? There's a little bit of the agile-esque type of behavior and conversations that are happening in that, but you don't need to have a person who leads that, because the team is doing that because
they should be independent.
Up the system to make that happen.
Yes,
right?
Because that goal is that they're independent, able to make decisions and work together and disagree and come to a conclusion on what's best for whatever it is we're working towards.
So step 3 is the stage between all the drama and the team functioning as a high performance unit, and that can do those things. So the thing that we're bringing up in this conversation is quit saving your team, and that is get your nose out of their business, right?
Yeah.
But most importantly is make sure you've taught them how to have those conversations without you.
Yes. Don't do it for them.
Don't do it for them. Teach them how to have, some people call them difficult conversations. They don't have to be difficult conversations. They simply need to be clarifying conversations. Right?
Conversations.
Let's just get clear on, is this the goal that we're working on? Okay, yes or no. Is this the date that we said, yes or no, right?
Yeah.
Do we agree on what's
have that mutual understanding?
Who's doing what? If there's a miss, call it out, be nice about it, right?
Yes.
But recognize it's like, oh shoot, I might have forgotten, or I thought I told, or I forgot, or whatever the mistake was. Grant some people some grace. Not to do the grace thing over and over and over again. It's the same thing, right? But
focus on what are we doing next.
But let the team solve the problem. So if an employee comes to you and says, employee A did not do such and such, the response from the manager isn't, okay, I'll take care of it, because that keeps you front and center in what's going on. What you're doing is like, so tell me what you've done about it.
Yes.
And if they say, well, I'm bringing it to you, it's like, okay, and now what are you going to do about it?
How do you want to handle it?
What's your next step?
Yeah.
How are you going to how do you want to handle it? Well, I want you to. This is a team.
Well, and I think that if when they push that direction, it's like, no, this is part of your responsibility on this team.
Right.
Is you've got to go have that conversation. Somewhere there's a misunderstanding. And in every situation, there's always different stories from the 2 people, 3 people, whatever it is. And let's go back to what the goal is, and let's create some clarity, understanding, and adjust the plan and get things moving forward.
So, okay. Let's challenge us. Why do managers and leaders stay involved? Like, why do they not require employees? Why do they hold people accountable? Why do people not take that responsibility to do it themselves? Like, why is that not happening?
They like to fix things. They like to fix things. They like to help people. They want to. As an individual, especially as an individual transitions from an individual contributor who has a lot of value, they know what that value is and what they contribute, to a manager, the manager's harder because it's not checking the box. You don't get to have necessarily all those wins that you do as an individual contributor. Right. So as that manager, this is an easy win for you to fix it. And now you're the hero. And that's not fixing it. That you're not being the hero, you're enabling them.
We need to be the guide, not the hero.
Yes.
Right? This is the story. And we also like to be in control.
Oh, yes.
So how many times have we asked the question, how many of you are recovering control freaks? And some will even admit, I'm not even recovering. I'm just a control freak. Right?
Yes.
And so just looking at those scenarios and saying, this is not about your control. This is allowing someone else to be a professional and to have the conversations.
To
grow and to feel how great it feels to be a part of a team that just functions that well. I mean, if you've ever been on a sports team or a musical group, you know, whether it's a band or a singing group where you just knew people were going to, you know, lift you, they were going to have your back, they were going to call you out because you weren't holding, you know, carrying your weight on something and you knew it. Like when you've been a part of that, man, that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And to not allow someone the opportunity to get there, that's selfish.
Yes, it is. And I was with a group and I'm like, you're the problem.
Yes.
It's not them, it's you. So what kind of environment, you know, what do you need to do differently? What kind of environment do you need to create to help develop people where they can have these productive conversations and really function successfully together and not needing you? It's like anything, your goal is to not be needed.
Well, and so we have to change some mindset and some behaviors as leaders.
Oh, definitely.
Right? So I know, me personally, when people are disagreeing, I get really anxious. I don't like the feeling of that tension. People who...
You mean like other people in the group?
Yeah, that's really weird, right?
Courtney does that too.
Just it feels awful. But we have, as leaders, we have to become more comfortable or allow the tension to happen, because that's where people learn to work through the things. Not only are they uncomfortable, but they learn to work through things that, you know, people are disagreeing with. They learn to get more clear about things. They learn to use their words. Well, they learn to have those.
I think it allows them to create understanding.
Right.
And when they create understanding, they have clarity. And when they have clarity, then they're able to work better together and build trust. I think, you know, at times where that being uncomfortable, there's probably a lack of, you can't control it. And you don't like that, not being able to control it, possibly.
I just don't want somebody feeling bad. For me, I can feel how the other person feels, and I don't like when other people feel uncomfortable or feel bad. I know that about myself. I have to work through it. I can.
Yeah.
Right? But it happens almost every week, not at work, but it happens somewhere in my world where I see something where somebody is feeling uncomfortable and I practice it, right? There are other things where sometimes we leaders, we have to make sure that we have clearly established what the guardrails are or clarified what the goal is. Because sometimes 100%. That part gets a little gray. And so we have to work on those things.
Yeah, let's pull the group back.
I also, you know, making sure this kind of goes back with allowing the tension to happen, is letting silence be there. You don't have to fill every quiet space. Just let let it be, and see who picks up the conversation. Maybe somebody needs to ask a question. Maybe you as a leader needs to ask the question. But the idea is, we leaders, we have to get better at not providing the answers.
Yes, because if you are asking the questions, if it's people on your team and you're the one asking the questions and you're the one answering things and so forth, they're not going to speak up. So now we don't know what truth really is or what they're feeling or what their thoughts are, because a lot of times they're going to align with whatever you said.
Right.
And it's you got to embrace that silence and, okay, let's talk through this. I'll let you two talk through this first before we move on. It is the elephant in the room. So let the two of you, let's work through this. You two work through this, and be okay with, I'm not going to talk.
So manage the tension, let it happen. Let silence be your friend. Ask a bunch of questions. Make sure people are, you know, so you're not solving the problem, but you're simply providing the thought-provoking question that may need to be asked. Maybe you need to clarify some scenarios or the situation, the goal, what your boundaries are. But most important, that if you are going to do any coaching, you're not coaching the outcome, you're coaching the behavior.
Yes.
So how do I have that conversation? What do I need to say? How do I work through a situation where it might feel uncomfortable? Those are the things that we coach through, but we do not coach the answer.
Well, and I also think, though, starting back at the very beginning, creating the clarity, and I've got a group that I've worked with, and it was hard, but they're getting better at it. The expectation is you work it out. I'm not going to save you.
Right.
But with that, this is kind of like how we're going to be respectful of one another, right?
Good.
So, where you put some boundaries, maybe we're not calling names, we're not blaming.
We're not yelling and raising our voice.
Yes, we're not yelling. Things we want to see is we want to see questions for understanding. We also want to see that when you recognize your emotions are, maybe you're going down this spiral of that negativity bias,
right.
that you're like, you know what, I need a pause.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. You need a pause, go walk around. We're going to respect that.
Yeah.
But setting some boundaries of how to have that, because that's learned behavior. And so now you've got a group of people that are coming together with learned behavior on how to disagree, based off of how they observed, how they were raised, the people around them at a young age, mm-hmm. really influence what that looks like. And then to, as they age in their early workplace or school or sports or whatever, and those experiences are not necessarily going to be what you expect.
Right.
So having those boundaries are huge.
So in order for you as a leader to quit saving your team, those mindsets have to shift. I've also been hearing a little bit more about some organizations that are making this part of their culture. So they start with, even in the recruiting perspective, in the recruiting ads, where you must have conflict resolution skills. Mm-hmm. Okay. Conflict resolution doesn't mean we're going to duke it out. It just means we know how to have those conversations. Correct. Because there are going to be times we disagree. They also are providing conflict resolution types of training. How do you have those clarifying conversations in orientation, periodically throughout, so that people get into the habit of doing that's part of the expectation.
Correct.
Too many organizations, one, they don't set the expectation that you need to have a skill. Two, they don't provide the training on how do you have conversations where people are not meeting your expectation. And maybe those conversations are simply misunderstandings or human error type mm-hmm. of I forgot kind of thing, right?
I think a lot of assumptions get in the way in that
too. They do. So all of those things can aid in your team moving not only out of phase 2 or stage 2, which is storming, faster, mm-hmm. okay? Let's reduce the drama. And actually moving into to the point where they can get to high performance. So many teams never get to high performance. Leaders spend too much time getting their fingers into things that they should not, and they're not allowing their team to solve the problems that they know how to solve, let alone should be solving.
Should be something,
Yeah. This is a good episode. I think this is a good topic that a lot of people need to either be reminded of, or maybe they heard something of, oh, I never thought about doing conflict resolution in my recruiting, or
just productive conversations. Yeah, because when you put that conflict resolution, it almost sounds negative, and it's like, no, it's about how do we have healthy conversations that are productive, moving us towards the goal when we disagree, or we see things differently, or we make too many assumptions.
Agreed. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Leadership Hustle. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode.